Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the On Centerline podcast. I am Sam Terrell, the Northwest Aeronaut on YouTube, and thank you for joining me. I know it's been a little bit since we put out a podcast. It's been a busy time, and unfortunately, not as busy as I'd like it to be. I haven't been flying nearly as much as I'd like to due to different reasons, aircraft maintenance and just general cancellations, but it has given me more time to continue working towards my ATP check ride, and I've been doing so. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to take that check ride yesterday as of this recording, and unfortunately, we hit some hiccups and with weather and different things, and we had to cancel that. So at this point, I'm trying to reschedule that and get it done ASAP because I don't want to lose this weather window we have. Anyway, real quick before we get into it for today, I wanted to let you guys all know that here on YouTube, I have finally started memberships. And these memberships range from a measly $3 a month to a measly $5 a month. And should that be something you guys are interested in, this will give you early access to all my videos posted. And for the $5 a month tier of membership, you will get a special shout out. Now, I will give a special shout out to my very first member who joined at the cadet level, Dan LP. Dan, thank you so much for joining. You are the first member of the Northwest Aeronaut crew, the Northwest Aeronaut channel here. Really appreciate your support, and I hope you're enjoying seeing this video before anybody else. So if you're interested in checking out those memberships, hit that membership button that you see below here on YouTube. And if you're out there in podcast land, I'd love it if you check that out as well. You can also just support the show one time by hitting the button below if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify by hitting that support the show button. All your guys' support is always so much appreciated. Couldn't do this without you. All right, guys. So today we're going to talk to you CFIs and you CFI candidates out there. And we're going to be talking about CFI intervention. Specifically, how do we as CFIs, as flight instructors, want to intervene with our students, and when, right? That last one's kind of the key question there. When do we intervene, and how do we do so? One of the biggest kind of hurdles or mistakes early on in flight instructing is sometimes instructors are either on the controls too much, they don't let their students actually fly the plane, and this can be detrimental to a student's progression in training. But even if you are letting your students fly, as you should be, the wrong type of intervention at the wrong time can be also detrimental, can really hurt their confidence as pilots and slow down the process of training. So it's an important concept of how and when to intervene with our students. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So basically, I break this down into 3 levels of intervention. Now, this is something I ask to all my CFI candidates when I'm working with them is what should be the first method of intervention that we as instructors utilize? And they might think, oh, we take the controls. Well, no, that is absolutely not the first method. They say, oh, we might help them. No, the first method of intervention should just simply be words coming out of your mouth. Okay, just verbal intervention. This can come across in the form of instruction, where you're literally just kind of telling them what to do and when, or certain corrections to be making. And of course, the earlier on in training it is, the more you're going to be doing that. As things progress and your students get more comfortable and confident behind the controls, you should need to talk less and less. And of course, we always want to be talking as little as possible. I know that anybody who's flown with me might be surprised to hear me say that because I can be quite verbose in the cockpit. But Nonetheless, there does come a time where I myself will zip it, okay, and be quiet and just let the students fly the plane, good, bad, or ugly, because that's a very important part of training and really prevents them from using your voice, if nothing else, as a crutch or almost a security blanket to where they come to rely on hearing your voice in order to do the things that realistically they know how to do. But without your voice there, things fall by the wayside. So, words should be the first form of intervention. I always say, as the flight instructor, we should be essentially trying to fly the plane through voice commands. So essentially, we're flying the plane with our mouth. If we need it to go left, we say, all right, let's turn a little bit to the left. Let's bank a little to the left. If it's going to the left too much, we say, hey, take some bank out to the right. Let's level the wings, okay? Let's use some right aileron. Different words at different times can be critical in conveying the correct message. So depending on what the situation is, you have to choose your words appropriately and properly. So we are flying the plane with our mouth and trying to be as specific as possible and as clear as possible with those instructions. Now, at some point, let's put it this way. In a perfect world, the airplane would always do exactly what you tell it to do. You say, let's turn left. Oh, little too much bank. Let's take some out. Okay, perfect. Hold that bank angle. Hey, we're losing some altitude. Let's pitch up a little bit. And in a perfect world, it would do exactly what you tell it to do, exactly when you tell it to do it. Now, for any of you out there who have been flight instructing or even just have been students yourselves, you probably know this is not realistic. At some point, the airplane is not going to be doing what you need it to do when you need it to do it, or to the extent you need it to do it. So what do we do then? What type of intervention do we utilize? Well, this is where I say, hey, we need to help our students out because they may not be fully understanding either the exact way that they need to be making inputs on the controls, or they may not, again, be understanding the extent to which they can or should be making those inputs. So we need to help them out by using perhaps a little bit of pressure on the controls to show them what needs to be done. Now, here's where the mistake often gets made, and this is something I changed in my own procedures and my own approach to teaching a couple years ago now. But typically, it's easy. You got a yoke right in front of you, and it's easy for you as the instructor to get on that yoke. If you're saying, hey, we need to put the nose down, put the nose down, put the nose down, and you kind of put pressure on your yoke to help put the nose down. Or the opposite, to bring the nose up, right? Or to make it do whatever you need to have happen. The problem with this is we need to remember that our students don't necessarily understand that what they are feeling on their yoke is a result of you pushing on yours. They might think that the airplane is trying to do something that they don't want it to do, and they are just going to fight that. So instead, I will reach over and I will actually make the inputs or help them make the inputs on their yoke. That way they understand and can see without a doubt that I am in fact helping them with those inputs and that I am intervening on their behalf. So it's very important that we don't confuse our students by making inputs on our yoke without them realizing it, okay? But that would be the second method of intervention, is just simply helping them see what type of input or how much of an input to make, and ideally doing it on their yoke with them. All right. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see a clip here from a recent flight I did. This is essentially a discovery flight, although he did have a couple discovery flights in the past. But this is a discovery flight, and you'll see as we're climbing out here and we make this left turn, he starts banking a little bit too far. The nose starts dropping to the ground. Of course, this is not what we want to have happen on departure when we're this close to the ground. So when my words fail to get the proper result, I reach over and I put a little bit of pressure on his yoke and I show him what needs to happen in order to get the proper result that we're looking for. All right. So that's the first and second method of intervention. We start with our mouths. We're just trying to simply fly the plane verbally. And again, in a perfect ideal world, this would work 100% of the time. The plane would do exactly what you tell it to do. But in reality, there's going to come a time where that's not effective enough, and then we want to help them with the inputs that they need, and ideally doing that when possible on their yoke so they can see how that's supposed to work, and there's no confusion as to whether it's the airplane fighting them or you trying to help. So what's the third method of intervention? Well, this is in fact when we would need to completely take controls from our students. Now, this is a method of intervention that we really want to limit and try to avoid whenever possible. As I stated before, when this is used improperly or too often, it can really diminish the confidence of your student, which can be a real hindrance in their progression of training. So, a couple things to think about whenever we take controls. Let's talk about, first of all, the instances or the types of scenarios that would require us to take controls. Well, the first and most obvious one, of course, would probably be anytime a situation is unsafe or illegal and the action required needs to be done immediately without error. That would be a time we would take controls so that we can personally keep ourselves from either getting hurt, hurting someone else, or breaking the law. That would be kind of the first and foremost thing that we're going to be looking at. Now, other times that we may need to take controls would be simply when our students get so overwhelmed that they can no longer function. This would be known as entering fight or flight mode, or as I like to call it, going out to lunch. When your students go out to lunch, it doesn't matter what you say or what you do, their brain has turned off to the point where they are in survival mode. They are not going to respond properly or at all to anything you're trying to communicate to them. And that's when we need to take controls as the flight instructor. We recover the plane or the situation as necessary, and then we allow our student to recover themselves, okay? So once your student has entered this mode, this fight or flight mode, once they've gone out to lunch, there's no point in trying to talk them through the situation. Even if it's not a particularly dangerous situation, it doesn't matter. There's no point trying to talk to them because they're not going to be processing anything you're saying. Take the controls, allow them to calm themselves down, then you guys can talk about the situation. And then finally, those are the two primary times that we need to take controls, but the third one is not nearly as urgent, but it is an important time. And this is when anytime we need to discuss something in the plane, whether I am giving them feedback on something that just happened or something they did, or if I'm trying to explain something in any type of depth, I will take controls from them so that they don't have to worry about flying the plane and listen to me at the same time. This can be done either in the air or on the ground while taxiing. Perhaps they have a rough landing. I'll let them exit the runway, and once they've done that, I will say, okay, my controls, I will taxi the airplane while we kind of debrief the last landing, and then, of course, we give them the controls to do the next takeoff. And on that note, there is one more thing that is particularly important to consider anytime you have to take controls from a student, especially if it's for kind of reason number one, which is for reasons of safety or legality. Anytime you have to do that, you want to take controls, we want to fix the situation, and then we want to, as soon as possible, give those controls back to our students. Again, having an experience where the student does something potentially unsafe or illegal, and having to take controls quickly can be a little startling, and it can really diminish their confidence. If you take controls in that moment and then you hold on to them for any extended amount of time, every second that goes by, their confidence is going to be going down and down and down. So it's extremely important that we take the controls, we fix the situation, and we give them right back so that our student understands, at least at a subconscious level, that, hey, you didn't do, there was a small problem, right? I needed to intervene just so that we didn't get in trouble or if no one got hurt, but you're doing fine. Take the controls. You keep doing what you're doing. And it's a good learning moment. Okay. So we really want to make sure that we're only taking the controls for as long as is necessary in those situations, and then giving them right back as soon as possible. And of course, depending on what the situation is, we may need to hold on to them a little longer than other times. But if it's perhaps just saving a gusty landing and we're about to side load or go off the runway, and I take the controls and get us going straight, as soon as the airplane's under control and tracking that center line, I'll give them right back to the student and allow them to finish taxiing us off the runway. All right, so that is the 3 levels of intervention that I use as a flight instructor. If you guys have any other ideas as to how you guys intervene or when you intervene, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from all of you. But those are kind of the tips and tricks I use when it comes to making sure our students are safe and successful and always having an enjoyable experience during flight training. Guys, I really appreciate you hanging out with me today. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're here on YouTube. If you're out there in podcast land, hit that follow button. It really helps support the show. I hope you guys are having a great day, and we will see you next time on Centerline.